We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live!
Welcome to the Mouthpiece, episode 108. Today we're going to talk about the special legislation with... I'm kind of out of it. With Sarah Ralston, she's going to be on talking about special legislation about stop cheating on online poker. We're going to talk about the Trump indictment. We're going to talk about NBA, sports, the tournament that just ended, and whatever else you want to talk about. The Mouthpiece is next. Welcome to the Mouthpiece. How y'all doing today? I just woke up late a little bit. Had to order some food. Been playing a lot of poker lately. It's been an interesting 10 days since we last talked. I end up winning last week 6,600, but it really doesn't tell the tale, as two of my sessions I was down 28,000 and 51,000. The day I was down 28,000, I lost like 5. The day I was down 51,000, I won $42. Played a lot of hours, probably played 30 hours in those two sessions. You know, I'm not the type of person that likes to play a lot of poker when stuck. I like to play when winning and kind of quit when we're stuck. But unfortunately, I got in a scenario where a couple of really bad hands happened for me during the week. And for me to win 6K for the week is pretty good, especially when I lost a 50K pot and a 40K pot in the same week. Both pots were pretty gross. The first one went raise 300. Raise 169, 4 callers. I squeezed to 1,050 with aces. Small blind calls, everybody else folds. Flop come 779 or 7. No, let me get that right. 799. 2 clubs. I get check raised to like 1,400. I just knew at this time he just had a flush draw. This is my gut instinct that he flopped a flush draw. I was positive of this. And the turn card comes like a 3. And he rips like 22,000 on me. So I get check raised like to 3,800 on the flop and 22,000 jam on the turn. I snap, he has ace 3 of clubs, and we run it twice in our game, and it comes 5 of clubs, 10 of clubs. So, there I was, basically 80-something% with one pull. I was 96.2% to not get scooped for 50K pot, so it's pretty brutal. Then later, the next one that happens on Sunday against the same person, in which I 3-bet real big. He called. Flop came, it was ace 9 4 with 2 spades. I get check called. The turn card come a 3 of spades. I get check jammed on again. I think I was check jammed on, or checked. I bet like really big, like 4K, and I got raised all in 20K, and I just knew he had the ace of spades in his hand, like ace X with the ace of spades. I was just positive. I was pretty locked in, and I call, and lo and behold, he has ace 10 with the ace of spades, and it comes 10 on the first board, 10 on the second board. So I won 6K for the week. If I split, which I'm huge, like on the first board, I'm 85%. Second board, I'm like a little over 2-1 favorite. if I split both, I win 51,000 for the week, which would have been my second biggest week I've ever had in this game, or third biggest week. So, it's to battle back and have a winning week after losing a 50K and a 40K pot is pretty unbelievable. And it's just, it is what it is. So, yeah, those were the two big pots I lost. Then, there was one pot that I got check raised on the flop. I had the king 7 of diamonds. Normally I check back this flop, but I got check 2 in position. I thought I got check raised because I was last to act, and I didn't think a person had a big hand because there's only one person behind. Came deuce 5, queen 2 diamonds. I call, turn card's a blank, bet 2,700. Now we're really deep at this time too, by the way. We're like 50 deep. I call, and the river came at 10, and he bet 7,000, and I decided to make it 21,000. I misread this hand. I mean, it was the first one I've misread probably in a long time, and he used 3 time banks. The board's deuce 3 5 queen 10. And he's like, "Oh man, did you set me? Blah blah blah." As soon as he says that, I'm like, "Oh no, he's gonna find a call here," And because my image is real good, when I like raise the river, it's they fold a lot, and so I'm like, "Oh God," he uses 2 time banks. He's like, "Wait a minute, somebody raised, I called, you called." He's like, "You can't have queens or tens." He's like, "I call." Of course, I can't have queens or tens. I could have ace 4 diamonds, ace X of diamonds. I mean, I bet the flop. I could easily have ace. So basically, if he had a set of deuces, he told me he would have folded, for sure. Which I agree. I mean, he can't. The way the betting went, he can't really fold a set of 5s. I made a big mistake, so I bluff off like 30,000 or 21,000 in this hand. Then there was another big pot where person raised. It came deuce 3. Let's see, deuce 3 ace, and I had king 8 of clubs, and I don't know, the way the person bets, the speed of the bet, whatever, I felt they were really weak, whatever. So I check called flop with king 8 of clubs. Now the turn card comes like a 6, so it's 1, 2, 3, 6. Check. Person bet 1,000 full pot. I check raised 3,800. I just thought they were weak. Whatever. Call. River card comes a jack. I bet 8,000. They moved in on me. So the 2 big bluffs I made, I got picked off for the week. Now there was some other. There was other bluffs that I made that I picked up. There was one hand where flop came 10, 7, 4 with 2 hearts, and I had ace 9 with the ace of hearts, and the turn card came at 8, and I led, and the other person in the game raised me 4,000, and I just jammed and got a snap fold, and I showed the ace 9. So I pick up 5K there bluffing. Just trying to tell you my big bluffs I made for the week that worked out, and the ones that didn't. And then And then that same person ends up bluffing off. Now, that was the person I bluffed off 21,000 to. So now that person bluffs off like 11,000 to me in another hand. What was the hand they bluffed off 11,000 to me? I'm trying to remember. But it flopped. It was 5-way action on a raised flop. I was in position 5-6 off. Flop 5-6-9. I was big blind. I was actually out of position. I'm sorry. I was in a big blind, but it was 5-way action, so I thought I could. I'll take 5-6 off to 5-way action. It came 5-6-9. Small blind leads for good 80% pot. I call. People behind me fold. The third card comes the queen. Person goes 80% pot again. I call. River pairs the board to a 5 for a full house, and that same person overbets 11,000 or bets like 10,000 into like 8. And I thought about raising, and it brought back to our hearts also. I mean, I'm probably supposed to raise, but I mean, I did run into, and I'll tell you. Oh yeah, there was another hand I ran into during the week where. Anyway, so I just call, and the person who had let out flop, turn, and river had Jack 7 of clubs, so didn't even had just flopped a stone gutter ball, and that's it. So they were never going to call anyways. Another big pot that happened this week happened against my good friend Stu. This is a really interesting hand. So a person who opens a lot of pots in our game opened for 200. I call on the button with 7s, and Stu calls in the big blind. Now the flop comes down 9-7-3 with 2 diamonds, and Stu just leads out for 222 in the 605. I make it 666. Stu makes it 2,000, and at this point, because I know how Stu plays against me, I'm convinced that he has 9-7 or a set of 3s. And I just jam 17,000 in a 2. I go for the 8x, was it 4x pot over bet, and he snaps, and somehow he fucking had 3 9s. So, like, I lose a 40K pot there. So, I know it sounds like I'm telling you all these big pots I played, but I don't usually play 40K pots like everybody else does. I usually play, like, 4K pots, and 5K pots, and 3K pots, and 6K pots, or whatever. It's the most. That's why I tell you about, my wins, from mostly end up, like, between 10 and 20,000. Anyways. So, won 6K for the week, and that's with me losing a 40K pot, 45K pot, a 40K pot, and a 50K pot, and I still won for the week. So, yeah, I played pretty good. Like I said, the bluffs, a couple of those bluffs I talked about that went awry. I think for the week, if you take all the bluffs that went good and the ones that went awry, I probably bluffed around probably the same amount as I lost. So, give or take. And I end up booking a win for the week. That was last week. And this week started off pretty interesting. I didn't play Monday. I took the day off because I played till 8 a.m. that Sunday where I lost, where I was buried that 51,000 and got even. And so I didn't play Monday. I played for like an hour at like 4:30 a.m. in a small game Tuesday. 3-bet pot and PLO. It was a half PLO, half Hold'em game. Different game than I normally play in, but and I had King, Queen 10 double suited. I normally would 4-bet this in position, but I just 4-bet the hand before and got it 3 ways with like ace, king 7 with like the ace, king of spade, and it came like 8-8 queen with 2 spades, and and I showed it, right? And so I didn't want to like 4-bet here, kind of like so they think I have aces again or like that hand. So I just called king, queen, tennis, double suited clubs and spades in position. But this is almost always a 4-bet hand, especially when you're playing deep. And you get 5-bet, you know what you're up against. So, but I called. Flop came queen, 10, 7, 2 diamonds. So I flopped 2 pair, top 2, real wet board. 3-better bets out for pot, like, I don't know, like 600. Middle blind call, I call. Now the turn card comes a 6, 8, 9, making a straight. 3-better checks. Middle position person checks. Now, why is this important? Middle position person is never, ever, ever checking 8, 9 on a wet board because there's any diamond there's so many other cards make a higher straight, and they're just not going to check to me with the board so wet. So I go for 1560. What did I go for? Let's see. So I go for 1800 pot, full pot on the turn. The original 3-better folds, and the middle position person check raises me all in for 4800. And I just was going to snap call, but I used a couple of time banks to think it through. Is there any way this person, I play with them a lot, would ever check 8, 9 on this wet board? And the answer was no. I call, and that person has king, jack with diamonds, king, jack, 8, like a pair, an open-ender, a small pair, open-ender. So, but all the 2-pair cards are dead because I've got 2 queens and 10s, and their bigger 2-pair card is a king, which makes me trips. So basically they've got diamonds and an open-ender, which is, 15 cards, 1 to come, and I win both boards. And now I win. I'm up like 5,200 in that, or 5,000. And then somebody was kind of tilted in the game. When I went to hold them, I 3-bet to 300. It was a 3-6-12 game, by the way. 3-bet to 300 with kings. Came king, jack, 10, 2 diamonds. They checked. I full potted 3 kings on this board. I just felt it hit the person. I just was pretty sure. And they call. And the turn came a blank. And there was like, let's see, I think there was 1,800 in the pot going to the turn, and I put the person all in. I went 2.5x pot on the turn, and they called me with king deuce suited and drawing dead, and it was pretty funny. The person's a really nice, very, very nice person to play with, and they hit a deuce on the first board, and he says, "Hey, I got there on the first board." I said, "Yeah, you did. You want a rebate?" So anyways, I ended up winning like in the small game, and I played for like 30 minutes, like 10,000. So that's kind of what I'm winning for the week, and that's how my poker's been going. So not to change the subject, but we're going to talk about what we'll do is so many more things to talk about. Now we're going to talk about the Trump indictment. We're going to talk about the NBA. But right now, what we're going to do is I'm going to bring a special guest on. Her name's Sarah Ralston. I've played poker with her before. She reached out to me recently, and we're talking about passing legislation about cheating in poker. Now, a lot of this came up because I don't know if you remember, but last summer, Jeremy Osmus talked about thought he was getting cheated in the 7-7-7-7 head-up match on WSOP.com. Looked up the person. They had like $81 or $800 in total winnings, something like that. I don't know. She'll tell you about it when we fill her in. And then that person played perfect, and Jeremy was convinced it wasn't that person playing. Find out like 6 months later, WSOP kick the person off the site, but they refused to tell about who it was. And we're going to talk about, she's going to explain it all to me, but supposedly WSOP is trying to fight this legislation of outing people who cheat. And she's trying to get legislation passed to ban people, just like they ban people from casinos for cheating. So she's going to fill us in on everything, and we're going to bring her on. Are we ready to bring her on? We got her in the Zoom?
Just send her the link.
So should be a good interview, good conversation. Interesting week for me in poker, that's for sure. Like I said, played a lot of big pots. I played, let's see, 1, 2, 3 40K pots, a 50K pot, and like a couple of 21K pots. I do like the way I played. I mean, those 2 hands I told you about where I raised 21,000 on the river, or the King 8 hand, you know, you're going to be wrong. I'm not wrong that often, and that's why I've done very well in the game, because my bluffs are really, really timed pretty well. And unfortunately, they weren't. But, you know, if those bluffs don't go wrong, I mean, that's another 30,000 there, and 2 beats. If I don't make the 2 bluffs, and even if I split the hands where it goes club or 10-10, I'm going to win 45. Like, I'd have won my biggest week ever. My biggest week ever I've had on this game is 62K. So, you know, I played pretty good. I just ran kind of bad, and it happens, and it's all good. You know, my good friend always asks me, he's like, man, he goes, how do you always get out? He goes, you get stuck these big numbers and you always get out. And it's a real easy answer. I get out because I don't tilt, you know. There's a lot of people that tilt. You know, I tilt before. I mean, I've tilted a couple times, but I just basically I'd say I tilt 2%, 2 or 3% out of 100 at the most. You know.
Mikey, we've got her.
Okay, so everybody, we're gonna bring to the show Miss Sarah Walston. Hello, Sarah. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, Mike. How are you?
Hi. How are you? So
Good. Looks like I'm mirrored.
I'm glad to have you on. I want you to explain to the audience and everybody kind of what you've been working on, how things have been going, and where we're at today with this legislation. The floor is all yours.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it. So, I mean, the legislation that we have in, I'm trying to think about where to start first, but so this piece of legislation affects the state of Nevada. It's at the Nevada legislature, and the goal of it is to bring more transparency into poker. The way it was drafted would have required outing cheaters specifically.
Okay.
However, it's really hard. Caesars has a lot of opposition to that, and so mainly for policy logistics, it's really hard to prove cheating. So, you know, Caesars, any operator in the state, the way they decide to ban users is because you violated their terms of agreement, right? You did something suspicious. They don't necessarily say you cheated. They don't like to have that labeling. But in their determination, you did something that violated their terms of services. So they either suspend you, ban you, whatever they do, and that's within their own purview for their operations. Where cheating comes into play for the state is, you know, they communicate with the Gaming Control Board daily, weekly, monthly, whenever the Gaming Control Board connects with them. They are the state regulatory authority that oversees cheating in the gaming world, right? They have a list or their black book of folks who are not allowed to be in the state, their excluded persons list. And Caesar's position is essentially, listen, we have our operations, we comply, we let Gaming Control Board know what's going on, they have information, we send it to them, and then they do their own investigation. So we don't want to interfere with any kind of criminal investigation on behalf of the Gaming Control Board. So you kind of have two different things. Well, this legislation is basically, it would be great if we could have some sort of concrete poker black book list. However, you got to start somewhere. And I think the proper place to start legislatively is with a transparency measure. So Assembly Bill 380 is really seeking to require some level of transparency for online poker in our state. What it would do in its current form with the amendment is it would require any licensee or operator to disclose the usernames of the accounts that have been banned, suspended, permanently revoked, whatever their status is, including active. They would have a list that they would have to make available to the public, or if they submit it to the Gaming Commission, who then will go through a process of how they're going to make that public. And that's a level of information that I think is necessary to start. It's to start somewhere, right? We should at least be able to see who we're playing against. We're not there yet when it comes to just having a definitive cheating or black book, and I'm not sure we're ever going to get there because of the legal landscape. And really, when you think about it, it's really hard to make that determination. And people are very, very careful. Even if you look at the history of who's on the excluded list, there's a due process for that in our state that the Gaming Control Board takes very, very seriously. And so I think, I mean, it would be nice if we got to that step, but for right now, I think we need to start somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of agree with you, and we talked a little bit the other day, and the fact that online poker was always one of the big draws at the beginning of online poker was an anonymity. Anonymity.
I know that's a really hard word to say.
Okay, sorry about that. And so, a lot of people got used to that. And then, I remember back in the early UB days, I mean, I had 7 accounts, right? And everybody had
You had 7 accounts on one site?
Yeah, but this was before it was illegal. Nobody knew. This was in 2003, and so, but everybody had 5, 6, 7 accounts, because in the big games that we were playing, there was only probably a pool of maybe 15 or 20 people. Okay. So everybody would change their accounts or add an account every once a week or whatever, and they'd switch back to the other accounts, and because in poker, especially online poker, and we talked about this, is everybody falls into patterns, and so they figure out who somebody is within 15 minutes usually, sure. Right? So it would be oh, look, here's a new person, right? And we're I wonder who this is, and so it really wasn't everybody had 7 accounts and everybody was cheating. There was not really cheating. It was not illegal at the time. This is back in 2003.
Well, yeah, and then you were playing on an unregulated site, one that was not licensed in our state.
Correct. I was playing at Ultimate Bet, and so sure. There's a big difference between that and WSOP.com. That's licensed. But even at the time, right? We used to always laugh once we found out who everybody was, But the fact is, let's just say the first 30 minutes of playing on your new account, right? Mm-hmm. You were able to make a lot of moves and do a lot of things until they're hey, so-and-so, it's Matiso, isn't it? And we all, because I can never lie,
No, so, it's Cat 123. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so I would just laugh and say, yeah, you got me, and then we would, and the same would happen with them, and so that was in the early days of poker, right? So now,
but that was a calculated risk that you as a consumer knew, right? You went into it knowing I'm going into an unregulated site. I know I'm putting myself in a certain risk situation, and that was the environment. I think that we're having the conversation now about what transparency is necessary, at least from the state level, because we're not talking about that arena. We're talking about let's say in Nevada, the only active licensee in our state with online is WSOP,
Correct.
and arguably they're the strongest brand in our industry.
Correct.
And they're on a regulated site. And so I do think that it warrants having a conversation about what expectation, what level of consumer protection should we have as players. Also, by the way, this is something that I think offers greater protection for the industry at large, including the state, right? I do think with the emerging, technological advances, I think every single operator, regulated or unregulated, it's just a ticking time bomb until there's some sort of very massive scandal. And I would hate for that to happen here in our state.
Correct. And so, after once when I'll give you an idea, it's like once it became like illegal to have multiple accounts, which I think happened around 2005, where everybody said, hey, it's one account per person now. And then they took away all your accounts and they gave you just one. And I remember that like very vividly. And so then, a lot of it, I remember Jared Blesnick got in trouble for multi-accounting. Justin Bonomo got, after it was illegal. And, both of them came forward. They admitted it, they apologized, and, they got a lot of heat for it.
Sure.
But I do remember I used to always say, I respect the fact that, hey, they came clean. They said they because you got to remember when it first started, it wasn't illegal to multi-account. And so now all of a sudden, when it became illegal, like, of course, I would never do it once it became illegal, but it is a big edge when you're playing against the best in the world, and all of a sudden you got different accounts when nobody else does. And so, that happened back then, and now we fast forward. Now we fast forward 2023. There was tons of ghosting on. We heard about what happened on GG Poker. We heard about what happened. There's so many things going on during the pandemic when, every game became private. There was tons of ghosting and cheating going on because a lot of the best players couldn't get into games. They were private. And even on online games, they would, ghost people like ACR and WSOP.com. I mean, we all heard of the names. We know the names that have been put out there. And I know even a lot more names that were put out there that people probably don't know about. And I've pretty much on my podcast kind of outed everybody that I know that have been, put out. But it's we go back. Let's go back to my Jeremy Osmus. He's a good friend of mine, and back last summer, he insisted about that he was getting cheated on WSOP.com for a bracelet because the guy played perfect. And
Right.
You're friends with Jeremy, correct?
I've played with Jeremy. I wouldn't call him friends. He's just always friendly. I think he's just a friendly person at the table. So I've had a couple of conversations, but I doubt he would remember me.
Yeah.
He was in his zone. So I've just played with him. I wouldn't call him a friend.
And for the people out there that don't know what happened, he was playing head up in a 7,777 for a bracelet.
Right.
And he's playing against somebody that had like $800 or $1,800, a real small amount of all-time money wins. And he's like, this person plays perfect, and it's no way that this person could possibly have like $800 or $1,800, whatever it was, in money wins, because it's just not possible that they're now all of a sudden they're playing a 7,777 tournament.
Yeah, I think Jeremy said something like, I just look forward to seeing you in more high roller events, because he was just like, I'm impressed. Like,
Right.
you play perfectly. And I think as poker players, like you alluded to earlier, we recognize patterns. We know, like when we see something that you're like, oh, that was a good move. But it's really difficult when you put that human factor into it, like to even make a 4-bet call or whatever scenario
Right.
it is on a certain textured board.
Correct.
I think he was just making like, kudos to you. And I look forward to seeing you. I don't know who you are, but impressive.
And then we find out 6 months later the person was suspended off WSOP, but they refused to tell anybody the person's name. And I guess hence this is why you have this legislation trying to get through.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a second. So that particular story, I think, sparked a lot of interest in our community, and then for me particularly because that's our state and WSOP. And when you think about it, it's pretty amazing that the only reason why that story came out was because the players told it, right? Because Jeremy mentioned it. And I think the other player came back and said, hey, it's me. And then he decided to have his side of the story shared. And you've got the dialogue between the two poker players. But then the community at large, we're sitting here like, well, what happened? What's the explanation? And you have zero transparency.
Right.
WSOP won't talk about it, won't say anything, won't mention it. It's really just the players who are talking about that. And as a community, I think we need to ask, is that acceptable? Is that level of transparency something that we should just be okay with, especially when you're talking about a bracelet event and you're talking about growing the game and you're talking about making it more available to players in all different types of medium and especially in the online space? I mean, that bracelet, that hardware is something that every poker player wants. And if they can find an edge in any scenario, even for this summer, what's going to stop a player with ill intent to go and register, for an account and then have malicious activity? But you know what? What's the worst thing that happens? They get banned and WSOP doesn't even say anything. The only way it's ever going to come out is if a player decides to call them out. So they're going to just be like, well, that's a calculated risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, like I said,
I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, I love Ty Stewart. I love Jack Effel. They work so hard to expand the brand, to work, to make, they know what, they made a lot of money for the brand. And
Absolutely.
I know how hard it is to run that big tournament every year. A lot of people don't even realize what they go, they're like, oh, the World Series poker made all this money. Oh my God, they rob us, right? And yes, they do, but they also put on an event that is it requires so much. Like, I'm just saying, like Jack Effel told me, it's like 15 million in waters they give away every summer. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about just the online part of it, though, Mike. Like, let's talk about that $7,000 bracelet. How many bracelets are they awarding online? So I think that they do a phenomenal job in person. I think they do a phenomenal job even online, and I think that they should be applauded for protecting the game in their space now. What I do think warrants some criticism and discussion is the transparency part of it.
Listen, I agree. So I've been really hard, and Daniel even agrees that there shouldn't be online bracelets. Phil agrees. All people that I play in the big tournaments, the 10Ks, we talk about it. I haven't found one person that thinks that they should give away bracelets for online during the World Series. And the main reason is because all these young kids that come to town, they rent a house, they get like 8 to 10 of them in a house, and they play all the events. They go when there's an online event going and they're not a live event going. They're all in the same house, drinking beer, eating whatever. They're all together. And then when somebody goes deep, they're all in the same living room, sweating them out, and now you have usually 6, 7 people sweating their friend, and they're like seeing who's left, and then they look up all the information on the people who are left, and then they're all watching the game and the screen, and they're trying to and they get tendencies off the guy because, listen, with one person, it's hard to, a lot of the good players, they could sit there and kind of figure out how everybody else plays, but now all of a sudden you got 6 eyes on 6, 7 different people, and they're all and so now you basically are. A group are winning a bracelet. You know what I'm saying? A group of people. And I know this is happening because I know people who have told me that, hey, I got deep. Me and my friends were sweating. You know what I'm saying? I know what goes on. I mean, I'll go back as far as 2010 when Full Tilt sent me to Brazil before the Brazil market became as big as it is today, but it was just starting to grow. And then we got taken to a house for a tournament party. The people were throwing the tournament. And in this house, this huge mansion on the water, on the beach. It was like an hour and 25-minute drive, an hour and 40-minute drive from Sao Paulo. And they're, showing me the house, showing me everything. And then upstairs, there's a room probably the size as the Bellagio poker room. And it had like 300 computers lined up next to each other in rows. There was like 50 in a row, like 6 rows. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, we just teach people how to play online poker here. and I'm just like, oh, really? Well, I know that all of them are playing in a tournament together. And the truth of the matter is you get enough people play really good, and you get deep in the tournament, and you're like, okay, computer number 5, 25, 38, 42, 82, how many chips, you know what I'm saying? Sure. And then you could just dump to your front, dump, and the next thing you know, you're at the final table of a major tournament, a $200, full tilt Sunday event, or a $200 buy-in. Poker Stars. I mean, I'm not stupid. I knew exactly what was going on, right? And I kind of called it out, and the person kind of like clammed up and didn't really say anything. And so when you see something like that, as much as it's hard to cheat in tournaments, right? In these big field tournaments that have like 28,000 people or whatever, just remember, if you've got 300 top players, playing and getting in the money, let's just say, 200 of them getting the money of the 300. I know that people might think that's high, but on those $200 like full tilt and Poker Stars, I forgot what they used to call the Poker Stars Sunday main event, but it was called whatever. And then all of a sudden you get to the same tables, you dump to your, it's just, I'm not saying, I don't know exactly how it worked, but I know that there wasn't 300 computers up there in a room the size of Bellagio for people to sit there and tell me that they're teaching people how to play poker. So again, what I'm trying to say also is saying is if that happened there, you got to just be naive to think that around the world it ain't happening. Now we're talking WSOP. It's a lot smaller events. You know what I'm saying? The tournaments only get really a lot of people. When during the World Series when they're playing for bracelets. You know what I mean? And also like it just again, this is of course we would never cheat or anything, but I'm sitting there. We were playing a 5K event. I think it was the third to last tournament of the summer, and we're both playing, and we're both on our computers. We're right next to each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And what the point I'm trying again is, who's to know? It's so easy to get on the same table with your friend. With a lot of chips, and it doesn't take much,
there's just so much that goes on in the online world. And I mean, do you think that even if we go back to this Nevada, proposal in this legislation, really, I think you've got the deterrent effect, right? I do. The case that I made in the hearing yesterday was that right now, what deters some of the players from not taking that calculated risk to go after a competitive edge in a bracelet or a cash game, if they know that even if they get banned or suspended, the only thing that's going to happen is that they lose access to their account, but there is no public reporting on it. Correct. Nobody knows about it. There's there. However, if you start having and you set the precedent that's not going to be tolerated, not only will you get your account banned like you would in any operations, but it's also going to be publicly reported, right? Yeah. We have zero tolerance policy in our state, and then that it's going to be publicly reported. I just think that there's going to be a huge deterrent factor and effect, even by having a transparency policy like that in our state. I mean, do you agree? Do you think that would stop some of the players at least?
I do. I agree with you 100%. You know, like even I'll go back. When a couple of when Ali and what's his name were
Jake?
Yeah. Were outed for cheating online using RTA or whatever they were doing. You know, I had known like a year and a half before those names, and I wrongfully attacked Daniel at the time. You know, I wasn't really trying to attack Daniel, and I said, "Oh, Daniel needs accountability," you know, because I didn't mean that. But what I meant is, he's the face of GG. These people need to know. And then Daniel told me, listen, it's not he's not wasn't allowed to tell people's names that were banned from the site. And so when he said that, I'm like, okay, but why can't we have, when you sign up for a site, you sign all these disclaimers, you accept, if any of you are caught cheating or doing malicious things, you are not only banned, but your name will be outed to the poker world. And I think that's what you're trying to get through.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I mean, that standard exists now, even in person. Why shouldn't it exist online?
Yeah.
If somebody goes into the World Series live event, and they're caught cheating, colluding, and the tournament director decides to make a call and says, you're out of the tournament, you're kicked out, that's going to be publicly reported.
Right.
And it's publicly reported and their name is out there, right? That standard already exists in person. Why shouldn't that be the case for online?
It should be. And if you talk to all the professionals, they all believe it should be. You know what I'm saying? Now, even if we end up, if we're able to get this, passed, and it's like there's still going to be ways that they're going to be cheating, because I used to say this all the time, back in the early 2000s or whatever. I used to say, this is when I'll never forget the statement. Phil's like, oh, when we used to play at the first poker room, what was it called, Poker Star, whatever it was, back in the day. I don't remember, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and feels like, they're going to be 100, 200 limit hold'em games one day. I'm like, nobody's going to play 100, 200, but people could be on the phone. It'd be so easy to cheat. Then they ended up having 4,000 games. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
And these huge tournaments, and like they kill people at 7-Eleven for $40 every fucking day. I mean, what do you think they're going to do for when they got a chance to win millions? You know what I'm saying? And back in 2018, when Daniel first became part of GG, and he's like, so-and-so's making $10 million a month. So-and-so's made $8 million last month. So-and-so made $6 million last month. I'm like, they're cheating. And he's like, well, what do you mean they're cheating? They're not cheating. They're not. The games are just so good. And the truth of the matter is in poker, and I said this so many times on the podcast, I've said it so many times to other people, if the best players in the world, the Jason Koons, the Donnie Peters, the Alex Foxes, are a 10, okay, and let's just say I'm an 8, okay, I think I'm about an 8.5 to a 9, but let's just say I am an 8, or let's just say I'm a 7.5. It would take 10 years for that to show, for the difference, 5 to 10 years for that difference of the 10 to the 7.5 to show up. Yet all these same players were printing millions on GG. And it's just not possible. It's like, like everybody's like, oh, look, Martin Zamani, look, oh, he just won the U.S. Poker, right? Now, he was the guy that outed, what's his name, for the chief, I'm having such a bad brain fart day. So,
You're talking about Bryn, right?
Yeah. Bryn Kenny. Yeah, he outed Bryn for the multi-accounting and all the stuff that was going on in GG. And like Bryn Kenny, put a lot of people in games. And basically in these huge tournaments, he would have like half the field. and whatever it was. So, but anyway, so he wins this tournament, and they're like, "Oh, you've been really doing well. What's your secret?" He goes, "I'm just running hot," which he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, what the point I'm trying to make when I brought him up is, I'm not saying that Martin Zamani is a bad player. I've never played with him, but I know he's not like a top pro, right? And he's been crushing, and so. But that's just what happens in No Limit Hold'em. You watch the high limits. You watch the U.S. all the top players. You don't watch Justin Bonomo crushing every year. 2 years ago, all I heard about was Mike Amato, whatever the heck what was his name, and he's crushing Adamo. Adamo's crushing. Adamo's the best. Oh, this guy's the best since Stu Younger. Oh, blah blah. I haven't heard from him in 2 years. Why? Because everybody goes on rushes. Everybody has their turn. I've seen, like, I used to play with one guy who was just so bad, and he won Player of the Year. He passed away now. I forgot his name, but and I'm like, I've seen it. Like, when people go on rushes, Phil's like, "Oh, I've never seen that," and then I bring up like 3 or 4 different people's names, and then to remind them, there's a lot. It's so easy to run good, that's what makes our game so great. Is anybody?
Well, even back to Zamani's point is that if he didn't go and actually decide to come forward with it and really talk about it in a transparent, honest way, the poker community wouldn't know, right?
Right.
And it's exactly what I was saying in the hearing yesterday, in the sense that, listen, this online cheating world is not unique to Nevada. It's a global issue. It's a worldwide issue.
Right.
The question that I have in front of the state legislature is, should we hold our regulated sites to a different standard? We're the gaming capital of the world, right? Everyone looks to the state of Nevada for policies and regulations, and you have a certain level of trust that players put into any operator in our state, particularly WSOP. And so that's the point that I'm making, is that we should have some level of transparency. And if you ban someone, you're doing your due diligence, and you're going through and protecting the site as best as you can. That's fantastic. That's a standard we know as a player, as a customer. That's why we choose to go onto your site. However, when you do ban someone and you suspend them, or whatever status they have, why shouldn't we have access to that information as a player and as a consumer? And in any other professional industry, we have that right? If you want to go and look up your doctor, you want to go and look up your contractor, your hairstylist, they all have licenses in which you can look up, and you can look up what their status is. Same thing with businesses. And the way I see it as signing up to a poker account, we get verified, we go through a verification process, and that becomes our license. That's our license to play, that we're in good standing. If that license is jeopardized in any form, whether it's suspended or whatnot, that status should be made available to the public, and everyone should know that, right? And then
No, I agree with you. And, a lot of people, I'm always a person who believes in second chances. Like, if we do get this through, and even the people that are banned from the Poker Go and from, Ali and what's his name? I can't remember. Jake, yeah. My brain's like working slow today. Like, I always believe, like, hey, let's give them a 3-year ban. You know what I'm saying? Come back, you get caught, doing anything again. I believe in second chances, but I also believe that there needs to be something done. And I agree with you 100%. And hopefully, what you're saying, we could get through. The
thing is that we're up against. So let's talk about some of the logistics in the state, because one of the reasons that prompted me from even just bringing this up is that in Nevada, citizen legislature. It's a part-time citizen legislature. Mm-hmm. And so you only have 120 days every 2 years to pass laws.
Okay.
So this legislative session started in February, and it concludes June 5th.
Okay.
So our state legislature has to pass this law by the conclusion of this legislative session. Otherwise, you won't have an opportunity to make any changes for 2 years.
And who, like, I don't know any pro that would be against this. Like, everybody I know and everybody I talk to in the poker world is totally pro. Like, out these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? And so, what is the pushback you're getting? I mean, I think you said that WSOP is pushing back on this.
So the testimony yesterday, the testimony yesterday, the only operator that came to the table in opposition was Caesars, expectedly. But it's really their testimony was their concern over burdensome litigation. So twofold. One, they're very, very concerned about burdensome litigation. And two, their stance is, that the Gaming Control Board is a jurisdiction in which they would determine if somebody warrants the label as a cheater and to be put onto that excluded list. I rebutted against that, basically that it's about transparency. We need some sort of level of transparency. It's not just outing someone particularly about cheating. It's about knowing everybody's status. It's about having informed information for the community. I mean, this is kind of like step one, because the problem is that if you just label someone as a cheater through the excluded list, and there's a whole due process for that, Mike, that goes through the regulatory arm in our state for that. That takes a long time. And I think that there could be an unintended effect that there is no cheating in poker, because it's going to take a while to actually get to that kind of conclusion. Right. And then it would be counterproductive to this piece of legislation. And so I pull back and say this is really about transparency. Caesars does not agree. They think that they are being as transparent as they can within the current regulatory landscape, and they are. I'm just saying that I think that the state legislature really needs to look at it and require more transparency. Make it a state law. And they are really just concerned mainly for the burdensome litigation that they anticipate would happen should that requirement be enacted.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why they would be against it. It doesn't seem like it would be something that would hurt them. It would be, if anything, it would strengthen their brand.
Well, I agree in some, and I guess, people who are far smarter than I am, especially in the legal world, will have more sophisticated opinions than I do on this discussion. But, it's really, I think we have to remember that when the dialogue happens, it's between two players, right? Just like we saw with Osmus and the gentleman who won first place. There was like some dialogue between the two of them. But what was a constant theme was that, it wasn't about WSOP. It wasn't about their operations. Everybody recognizes that they're the facilitator. They do their best within that landscape to facilitate the game. And sometimes they're going to have to make a judgment call. And all I'm saying is when you make that judgment call, be transparent about it. Tell us why. Build the trust. Honesty is better, and it protects the game for the future. I mean, it protects the industry at large. And so there's a little bit of a disagreement because they don't feel like that would actually accomplish what I say it accomplishes. So there's some disagreement on that. And their litigation concerns are really about the aggrieved poker players who feel like no one should know if they get banned.
Yeah.
It's maybe I got banned for something that had nothing to do with cheating, but the accusation is that I'm a cheater, or the accusation.
I mean, it's a big word. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when Ivy had the situation with the reading the back of the cards in the baccarat, right? And Ivy's name was the number one branded name in poker at the time. And then, I mean, you can't can't use the word cheating. You put the word cheating to that, it's just it's really bad. Oh, you're a cheater. And so many people have gone back and forth on that Ivy situation. Did he do anything wrong? Do you think he cheated? And yes, he didn't touch the cards. He just did what he asked them to do. Okay. Right. But he went in, and I've said this before, and I love Ivy, and I'm not calling him, I would never call him a cheater or whatever. But when you go in there and you change the odds from baccarat to minus 2% to 3% in your favor without them knowing, to me, that is you've wrongfully done something without them knowing. Like when you sit there and you show up, that the baccarat, they have like 2.5 whatever edge it is, right? And when you sit down and you say, even though you didn't touch the deck or you didn't do everything, you ask for certain things and they do it, and it switches it into your favor. I don't call it cheating. I call it more of like kind of dishonesty, or the system kind of getting over on the system.
Yeah, that was a really interesting case, and if my recollection is right on it, I mean, I think that those terms in that game, he made in advance of him playing. So he was honest. He said, "I want this particular deck.
Right.
I want this, I want that," and they knew what he was doing. But I think what was interesting about that case law was that they said that he had a competitive edge. And like the way the law read was that there was some sort of competitive edge given to him for some sort of device, and I think his device was I don't remember.
Well, I used to tell people like once it's found out that this person was doing it, you're up against like the most powerful people in the world. Like,
right.
I knew Ivy was going to lose the case in London. I knew and he had the best lawyer in the world, by the way. He was my lawyer, David Chesnoff. But and the truth of the matter is you're up against powerful lobbies, powerful people. When they're not going, and again, it just sounds like stupid, but like they're just not going to let some rich black man come off the street and beat them for all this money. They're not going to let it happen because, I'm not saying that race is involved in this, but it's definitely going to make it even more of a reason why they're never going to let this. Like when he took it to the Supreme Court, right? I mean, I just was like hoping he won because he just did what he asked them to do or whatever. But these people are all corrupt. I mean, they're all these judges. They're all paid off and bought. So he loses the case there.
It's a sophisticated, complex system, and it's designed, to favor those who have more knowledge about the system. And that's really, I think, a problem across the board is that the average player, the average person, like bringing it back to poker, is that you don't know any better, right? There's so many different complexities in that legal framework that you don't know it, and you're just trying to do, but you're trying to make a living. You're doing your job, and you think you're doing it within the rules, and then you might be in a situation in which
the reason why I brought that up is because we talk about how you just said WSOP doesn't want to label when you're labeled a cheater. You know what I'm saying? And so that was one of
they don't want to be a part of that, and I completely understand. And that's why when the legislation first came out and I saw that it was tied to the definition of cheating in our state statutes, I said, well, that was never the intent. It was never the intent to do that. The intent was really to be about transparency in our state, in your current operations. That does not conflict with the criminal investigations that go on within our state's gaming control board and gaming commission, right? There's two different processes. They have their own sophisticated system in which WSOP communicates. So all the activity that goes on that they have on their players, they have their own due diligence in which they have to send it to the gaming control board and gaming commission, and they do that, and they have their own investigation. And so it was never my intent to interfere with that process. It was never my intent to put the burden on any operator to define cheating. It was really about aligning it with your status of your account, right? We have a license to play once we're vetted, and we should have access to information about players' statuses, just like we do in any other licensee profession. And I mean, this is for real money, Mike. This is for real.
I've been saying now. I've been saying it for 10 years, but I've been really saying it really hard for the last 4 or 5 years. Is that, I mean, people hate to want to hear it, but there shouldn't be high stakes tournaments online. Like $100 tournament should be the max. You know what I'm saying? It brings in thousands of people, and it makes it way harder to cheat. When you're running.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think everyone when you play poker, I think you do your best to try to find what medium you want to play in, whether it's online, small stakes cash, large stakes cash, maybe your tournament and you want to play MTTs, or maybe it's live. But I think every player has that curiosity factor of wanting to go in online, but if they don't feel like there is a certain level of protection, especially in a regulated site, in a regulated state, it's going to prohibit them from even joining. And I really love this industry. I love the game. I want to see it thriving. I want to see more women in poker. But the more stories that we hear about cheating in higher stakes, and especially in bracelet events, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable putting $7,000 on the line for a tournament in the bracelet when I'm not sure if I'm just being too naive. I might be putting myself in a situation where I have no idea that the edge is so far ahead that I'm the sucker.
Well,
right?
No, I get it, because like even when I would play online, right, and here I'm a person that's had 3 losing months in his life playing live poker, right, and one of them was because I went broke and couldn't bounce back. I went broke early in the, I lost big early in the month, but people hear me say that and they're like, oh, Mike's lying. How could he lost only 3 months playing live poker? Well, I've lost millions online, right? And I'm not a winner online. Now, not counting like, when I got in a private game, I've done pretty well since COVID, but I'm talking about in the regular online world. And and even like again, I'm not accusing anyone of cheating, but like I've talked about this on my podcast where I lost like 165K playing mixed game tournaments, or not mixed game tournaments, mixed game high stakes mixed games, and I'm like one of the best mixed game players in the world, and I'm playing against all the most of the people that I've played it with in the real world, and I just got destroyed, and I just got like. And this is the second time I've played high limit online mix and gotten destroyed, where a lot of these are the same people that I've never lost to playing live. Now, I'm not saying I got cheated, but how is it that I never win online and I don't ever lose live? Like, in other words, why is it that, yes, there's days I've stayed up for 48 hours straight and blowing my brains out online, but overall, I'll go back even to Full Tilt back in 2008, I think it was 2009. I'm playing 500 and 1,000 9-handed Omaha 8 stud 8 mix. Those are my 2 best games, and I'm down 183,000 playing 2 9-handed games. Now it's when you're playing 9-handed and you're playing 08 stud 8. I mean, there's not that many moves going on. There's not that many, and I'm just losing every pot I play. Now, the truth of the matter is, do I feel like I got cheated? No, but what if 3 or 4 of them were playing together? You know what I'm saying? It's a lot, like, especially in Omaha 8, you could really bluff, raise, re-raise, and get people off hands. Again, I'm not saying it ever happened. Okay, but it's possible to happen, and I know that, and I've said it for years. If I'm sitting here playing a 6 max quarter 50 PLO, and you're sitting right next to me playing a quarter 6 max PLO, and we play straight forward, they can't win in a 6 max. If we can see 8 of the 24 cards, it doesn't matter. They can't win. We were always going to win because you just know the cards that are out. You just don't have to do much. And I've tried to make this point for years. I
think online operators are doing their best to try to figure out, what are your algorithms, and whatever it is with like the IP addresses and certain things. I mean, they have a huge sophisticated operation to detect that. And I think that it's important to know. I mean, players know that they are being watched, and you may not be able to catch them in real time, but eventually, I think they are going to get caught.
But and here's the thing, though: most of the real money, all the money these sites make, are all from 5 cent, 10 cent, quarter cent, 50 cent, up to like $1, $2, $2, $5. They're not crushing 10, 20 no limit, or those are. So why can't, I've been saying this for years, 2.5 max, no limit, cash, and $200 max buy-in tournaments, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Why do we need high stakes poker online? I mean, for what reason? There's plenty of tournaments around the world, plenty of tournaments in the United States. They could play high stakes. All it does is set it up for cheating, and they're not making that much money off these high stake games. It's just unnecessary. Like
So then
online.
do you think it's just a conversation about, the operators maybe having some sort of sit down and talk and saying, well, what we can do for the industry? And if players are saying, protect us, protect the game, don't offer these, you don't have what it takes to really go after all the cheaters, nor do you want to have the capacity to
It's gotten to the point that, like,
What do you
okay,
do?
so when everybody's in town for the World Series of Poker, right? And now they're raking like 15%, like they rake like that much out of the regular tournaments, right? And they need that to pay their overhead, whatever, to run that big tournament. But when they see, I don't know what they take in the WSOP tournaments, but for bracelet events, but when the amount of people that enter the bracelet events are up like 10x during the World Series, and it's a lot. That's a lot of money for them. Like, it's an extra. I think now they used to have like 2 online events. Now they have like 10, right? And each one makes like first place money or second place money for like 150,000,
and there's no facilitation beyond just your software, right?
Right. And so
it is very profitable. I imagine it is very profitable, and that's in their own purview as a private business, and I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
And they should, but I just think that we as poker players should, try to be more vocal about what we'd like to see from them. And I think transparency, and I keep using the word transparency because I think honesty and communication is what matters. Like, why didn't we get to know more information about the banned accounts, and why are you not talking about it? You make the decision internally to ban someone, then, why shouldn't we have access to that information? I think it's relevant.
And even
I think it's relevant.
I do too, and I'm on your side on this. Now even if like the bracelet events, right? Because the bracelet events online, they don't get infinite amount of people, right? So during the World Series, though, I noticed some of the bracelet events, like the $600 ones, they would get like 5,000 people or whatever with the re-entries and everything. And so they know pretty much who's playing, and if some people start getting hot or whatever, and I mean, it's real easy to go the algorithm to see if the playing style changes. Okay,
and they can help people. So it's again about just information sharing, and so I think that they understand the concept of wanting to address good actors and bad actors, but it's really the level of comfort in what they feel is okay to disclose and not disclose. And when you talk about consumer information and you talk about player identification, I made the case that I didn't have a say in you sharing information about when I win.
Right.
I know that's a part of, basically the public disclosure. I sign up in person or even online. If I decide to play, you're going to report my wins. That happens. That already happens. My user ID is out there. We have some level of information. So, I guess their stance is that that's good press. But what if I, as a consumer, don't want that shared, right? Like, I don't have that. That's already out there. So I don't really understand the argument of not disclosing at least usernames and status. Maybe they're not comfortable just yet with a full name and last name, but you got to start somewhere. Right. And you are already doing that. That is already happening. And so I am not bringing up something that's not already in your current business operations. Agreed. That level of disclosure is already happening. It's not happening on, banned or suspended accounts. It's happening on reporting, basically the results. And actually, you can go onto the site and look up tournaments and see every single username who registered for a tournament. Right. That's already there. Your usernames are already there. That's not information that's not already readily available. Yeah. So, because there was some sensitivity in the discussions, even about sharing usernames. Right. And so that's where I get lost. I don't understand that.
No, again, like I said, when I brought it up with Daniel, he says, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk about people who have been banned It just not in the. He said it was just he wasn't allowed, and but in a
Well,
regular.
and that's a private decision that they make. They have a team of very sophisticated attorneys who tell them this is what you can do, what you can't do, right? They have certain protections that they have, just like any private business, and they have a right to. But this is why I feel it's so necessary to have this discussion at the state legislature, because absent this conversation happening where we're trying to change laws in which they follow, right? They follow our state laws and our regulatory framework. Outside of that, they're choosing not to.
And here's another thing too, is because GG has become the arm of the WSOP overseas. You know, if you're able to pass the legislation just like on state level with WSOP, would that also protect people that play the WSOP brand on GG overseas during the World Series of Poker?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that if the law is passed, what happens is it has to go through a regulatory process for implementation before it's actually codified into law. And through the regulatory process, those details will be worked out there. So you've got a state law, and then you'll have the regulatory process in which they say these are exactly how you're going to be compliant with the state law. And if they are a subsidiary company, my guess would be yes, but I am not sure. Only if they're under their operation. If they don't have any other ties to Nevada like business, I'm not sure that they would be required. But that's an interesting point to make, and maybe it does. But I do think it would set the precedent as kind of the gold standard. I already think WSOP.com and regulated through Nevada is the gold standard. I think it would put the industry at a slightly higher standard, and hopefully other operators would follow.
Yeah, I agree with you. And listen. Online poker, is, I don't really play it, so I don't really know. I mean, I play in a private game, which is completely different with the same people, but like, I do know that there's tons and tons of sophisticated software out there that give you a enormous edge against other people. And I just believe, maybe I'm wrong. All the top players I talk to will agree with me that even though they've watered down a bracelet, like it's kind of worthless now, but they've watered
it's
down.
Still, everybody wants it.
It's still everybody. It's the gold standard. Okay, it's kind of like brainwashing, right? Like there's nothing. If I play a ACR tournament with 2,000 people. And I play a you're just playing an online poker tournament. But they branded it well, and they've made it to where, hey, you win this tournament, you're a world champion, right?
Yeah.
And it's been brainwashed into everybody's head that you're world WSOP, winning a WSOP event means world champion. And because they've been able to brand it so well, diluting that brand is really bad. Like I've said it
well, that's why I think you need to protect it, right?
Correct. Exactly.
For this being a competitive sport. We see it on ESPN and we see it on other things, and it's treated like a competitive sport.
Right.
And let's talk about the comparison of poker players, even in competitive sports world. We have access to information about the different requirements for all of the athletes in the world. We know if they are following protocol or not following protocol. They have testing measures, and if they are not compliant, it's publicly reported and shared. So why can't we have that same standard even in poker? And you are promoting it as a competitive sport. You are promoting it.
You saw like back in the days, like in baseball or whatever, like all of a sudden the pitcher's ERA is way down, the hitters are hitting more home runs.
Yeah.
And then they get tested for steroids, right? It's like
and they're held accountable because we know it, and we get to as watchers, players, everybody gets that information. And that's exactly the same point I'm making.
Correct.
Or the same point I'm making even in this industry. Mike, I care about poker. It's always been a dream of mine to become a full-time poker player. And I think it became
Don't do it.
About it. Yeah. Well, I'm in it. I'm in it for about like a year and a half now. And, but I'm one voice. And I said, fortunate enough to have a background, lobbying the legislature. I'm a former lobbyist and
Right.
state executive. So I've got, a deep understanding about the legislative landscape here in our state.
Right.
But I'm one voice. I am not lobbying the legislature for this on behalf of any client, on behalf of any association. I'm doing it as a constituent, as a poker player. I am getting paid $0. And yeah, I'm on the other side going against those who have sophisticated lobbying corps, sophisticated attorneys, and the largest industry in our state.
Right.
And I think, to give them respect, I think that they're willing to have a conversation. I'm just, there's the reality is that I'm making a proposal, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have this discussion. But what is really valuable is having more poker players at the table, more industry voices, not just Sarah Ralston.
I will be a voice.
What can the public do to support what she's
What's that?
What can the public do to support what she's trying?
What can the public do to support the legislation you're trying to get through?
Yeah. So connect, send me a message on Twitter, let me know that you have the support, or send you a message, Mike. And, especially if you're a Nevada resident, even if you're not a Nevada resident, you can actually say, no, I come to Nevada. When I do come, I play on the site because I'm within the jurisdiction. Is totally, that's what a lot of players do. They come in, they sign up for an account, and they play, and they say, I support this measure. Right. And just having your name, I'm a poker player, where you're from, I support it. And so I can have a list in which I share that with the legislature, so that sometimes what gets lost in translation is it's just Sarah talking. And I do say that, no, I do believe that there are a lot of other poker players that agree with me, and the industry at large wants this. It's a global issue. It's something that we want and we would like to see move forward. So I think the public, what they can do is just engage. Gotcha. You can do it independently yourself. Go on the Nevada legislative website. It's Assembly Bill 380.
I retweeted that with that bill. That's the one. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the one. And you know what? I can send you another link. Because
send me a link, and I'll send it to also to Daniel if he agrees, and I'll send it to Phil if he agrees. These are people with big followings, of course.
Yeah, and the thing is, you could just go online and sign that I support this. So even if you don't connect through me or connect through you, let me just get you the link to the bill page. Okay. And there's basically you just submit a form that says, I agree, I support this measure. Okay.
And go ahead and DM me on Twitter, and so I'll and then it just basically says if they read the bill, they support it, and if we could get like big poker players behind it, and they like it, that's gonna be a really good start.
It is. It just builds some of the momentum. So because at the end of the day, this piece of legislation is all about two numbers, and that is 63 plus 1. What that means is that you've got 21 state senators, and you've got 42 state assembly persons, and you've got the governor. Right. So you need the buy-in between now and June 5th of those 63 plus 1. So it's got to pass the legislature, and then our governor has to sign it or allow it to become law. Great.
Sounds good. So I'm going to reach out to a lot of the people in the industry that I know. I'm going to reach out and direct message them, basically the bill, and if I can get them talking about it, and I can get them agreeing that, hey, Sarah's right, we need this. This is important for our industry, and we get this into the right people's hands to keep, You see what goes on Twitter. It's a Twitter war. It's a hate war every day of toxicity. So I'm
maybe
sure
this can bring us together. Maybe this can bring us together and talk about.
I don't know. Something good. I said it in 2007, and we're now 16 years later. And I said, this online, this Twitter, this Facebook is going to be the end of society. And people thought I was crazy, but I could see, I remember in 2007, the first thing I said to myself, I'll never forget, I told this one person, I forgot who it was, but I said, when I was in high school, like people would pass notes around and make fun of people, and a lot of people got picked on, right? I'm just in the Twitterverse and the Facebookverse, everybody just goes click, 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 and they have a group, and all of a sudden a whole group thing, and the whole entire school's making fun of one kid, and next thing you know, they're committing suicide. And I knew this was going to happen. That's why suicide rates up 70% among young people. And just like everything online, where, and I brought this up many times, and a lot of people are like, well, free speech, free this, free that, okay? When I was going to high school, and you had to go see a movie, an R-rated movie, an NC-17 movie, your parents had to take you in. You know what I'm saying? That's just for an R-rated movie. Right. I mean, now you could be 10 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, and click on the most disgusting stuff online. There's no nothing to stop our kids from being. You remember, kids are really impressionable. I remember when I'm 10 or 11, like even when I was in high school, like you were either the one that was strong and you said no to drugs, or you were part of the people that you get coerced into doing things. You know what I'm saying?
You're part of the people that was like, I'm just trying to avoid it.
Right. And so that's and that's kind of like the same thing going on now with everything. I don't want to get political or whatever, but kind of know what I'm talking about between.
Sure. Well, and I just think it's sad. I mean, I think a lot of times that even in every conversation, and maybe I'm just such an optimist and my viewpoint on a lot of things, but really what always gets lost in translation, I think, is just having empathy for the other person and reminding people that, we're human.
Right.
And the kindness, it really does. It just goes away because people hide behind a screen name, or they hide behind, their social media accounts, and then they just go off. And
I'll say it till the end. Elon Musk buying Twitter will go down as like in 200 years, it'll be talked about like Abraham Lincoln's freeing the slaves. I believe that because him saving free speech, not just for the country, but kind of for the world, is so big because they were, these social media companies, they were literally making the algorithm to, put dissent on one side and, to push another agenda. And when you get the entire world hooked to their phone, which one of the biggest pet peeves I have is you go to dinner and you don't pull your phone out. I don't care who you're with, right? But if you look around, you're sitting at the dinner table, right? Just look around at everybody. Everybody's on their phone, even at dinner. You go to a bar, you go out to a bar, nobody's even talking to anybody. They're all on their phones, Right. And so everybody, when you have the whole world, addicted now, who got the whole world addicted? Well, China did, right? That's where all the phones come from, right? So everybody's addicted, and now all of a sudden you put out the information you want people to see, and you hide the information, suppress the information that you don't want people to see. Well, now all of a sudden you have all these people pushing an agenda that in their minds they believe is like a human right and normal, but they don't know that they've been brainwashed. And a lot of that is, again, I'm trying to just kind of compare it to again, that like the online situation is if you're there all the time and you're playing whatever and you're not winning or whatever, it's not hard to cheat. I would never do it. I used to play online with my friend Mike Wattell. I would be on the bed on my laptop. If
you think about it too, like even just with Twitter, can you imagine if you had a situation and where no one was able to have a username that wasn't akin to your actual identification? You went through an identification process, and you can only have your name, and it's verified that it's your name, it's who you are.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Whenever you're able to hide behind something and you have some anonymous factor, I think that the temptation for some people is just too much. And in online poker, that happens. That definitely happens. But if there is more emphasis on transparency and holding people accountable for their actions and knowing that there's that public factor of disclosure, I think that's going to be a deterrent.
How hard would it here again? Okay, so when DraftKings decided you can't play fantasy sports in Nevada, I mean, we're the only gambling place, one of the very few in the world that you legalize gambling everywhere. But DraftKings wouldn't allow it because they decided that daily fantasy sports taking a rake is like a betting, and then now DraftKings now they have their own sports book or whatever. So it really is betting, right? So what were they able to do? I can't log on to DraftKings and play DraftKings in the United States, right? Like if people want to play WSOP, they can't play it outside Nevada and New Jersey, right? So you tell me why every single person that logs onto an iPad or onto their own computer doesn't have to send a verified ID to say that they're that person before they log on. That's going to stop all these young kids that are being completely influenced on Twitter, because if you remember, young kids are remember how impressionable we were when we were young, right? And so if we think about it, you can't drink till you're 21, you can't smoke till you're 18 now. Okay, back in my day, they had a smoking section, you could smoke, whatever, but it still was 18, right? You couldn't go to an NC-17 movie unless your parents took it, but you could click online and do and go wherever you want to the most horrific things you imaginable is online. So how hard is it to pass a law? Like I believe that nobody should be allowed on social media unless they're 16 or higher, maybe even 18 or higher. 16 I think would be fine, and this way, there's just no, that's just like you can't drink till you're 21. It's real easy, and that's going to make the suicide rate go way down. That's going to make the insane, crazy brainwashing of these young kids go way down. And so everything can be regulated. This could be regulated. Speech, I don't want speech to be regulated online, but I do understand speech to a certain point of, like when when our founders said, free speech is, so important, which it is, right? But you can't have somebody with 135 million followers like Kanye West, tweeting a fucking Jewish star with a Nazi symbol inside it. Okay,
Mike, it sounds like you actually may want to consider your own lobbying career.
Yeah. I know, I'd be great. Trust me, I would.
Go and register and start reaching out to some of these lawmakers.
and so when people are saying, "Oh, well, Kanye didn't do anything; he just put a thing of some other religions, whatever," and I'm like, yeah, but people, again, are impressionable. Kids are impressionable.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, free speech is important, but where do you draw the line is a question that I think a lot of people have, when it comes to protecting the public. And
I agree.
I'm in a camp zero tolerance policy on anything hateful.
Right.
I'm in that camp because I do think that there are a lot of impressionable.
And listen, I respect you for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm in a camp where, let's just say, even if we had like a following, like online, if you have more than 1,000 followers, you can't say anything hateful or whatever it is, 100, whatever, a certain amount of followers, because like if that is able to reach and reach and reach and reach and reach, that's how you get another Holocaust. You know what I'm saying? Like, do I think Kanye West is a anti-Semite? I really don't. Okay, I believe a lot of what he says is true. Okay, but again, just because the people who run the music industry happen to be Jewish, and just because the people that run the entertainment industry happen to be Jewish by name, okay, doesn't mean that all Jewish people are that way. And see, he lumps them in together. And when you lump that in together to 135 million people, that's how you get another Holocaust. You see what I'm saying? So that's where, you have to draw the line. And a lot of people I follow, even the people I follow on the right, they're like, oh, it's free speech. Kanye didn't do anything. It's free speech. It's free speech. Well, no, Elon gave him his Twitter account back. And what did he do? He went out and wanted to try and, he's always said crazy shit, but he wanted to double down and triple down on Hitler. You just can't do that. So it comes to a point, like, again, a lot of what we're saying is, I want to find a way to get legislation that young kids that are 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years, whatever, like any site that could hurt young people, because kids are so, like, you just need to be a certain age to get on social media and get on like these pornographic sites without just clicking a button. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think you're starting to shift into a deeper discussion about, I think parental engagement and
right.
how do you legislate parental engagement? I mean, this is something
correct.
that as a parent myself, when I hear about different things, I mean, you can't force someone to
right.
engage.
Like if you're a good parent, your kids aren't going to these sites, right? But then,
or you're having conversations that are meaningful to say, listen, the freedom of speech is important. And, we are all going to have difference of opinion on what is hateful speech, what is not hateful speech. Yep. This is something that, we're all going to have different opinions on right. where you draw the line. But as a parent, those are important conversations I think you need to have with your child. I'm not sure you can legislate that. Yeah. You can attempt to. That's just like you trying to.
Again, that goes again to like who being a good parent and knowing who the friends are, and if they're bad friends, you don't like them, you make sure they don't hang around them. That's pretty much what it comes down to. You gotta.
There's definitely different things, and I'm not the best person to talk right. about laws related to freedom of speech and that, but
well, I appreciate having you on, Sarah. This is a great discussion. I really appreciate the dialogue, and
if there's any additional follow-up with anyone that has questions about the legislative landscape, kind of like the next steps, where do we go from here, or maybe some questions about just the bill language itself, okay. Happy to jump back on and talk to any of your callers who dial in. And, I really want to hear more from the poker community too, and saying, am I missing something? What else can I present? I think this is the best proposal that I could come up with that would actually start us somewhere.
Well, I'm going to take some phone calls. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to see what people think. I'm going to fast forward. Make sure you DM me that the link to that I'm on board with this.
Webpage, sure.
Yeah, and I'll send it out to all my poker friends, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And
make sure to what's your Twitter? Let everybody know it's watching the show.
Oh, it's SCR Poker.
Okay, SCR Poker. It's Sarah Ralston, and we appreciate you being on the show. And
thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate the time and really, being able to come on and chat about this important legislation. So let's keep the momentum going and that conversation, and happy to hop on again. And again, let's remind everyone that we've got till June 5th to get this passed.
You got it. Take care. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks so much.
I appreciate it. All right.
Bye.
All righty. Very good at conversation. I know a lot of you, like to hear me bullshit and have a lot of fun, whatever. But I think that was a very important for our industry, and I'm going to reach out to see what what I can do with my friends. I saw you just right on. Do I think the Lakers will win the championship? I do believe they're going to win the West, and they got a good shot to win the championship. I've got two bets. I've got the Milwaukee Bucks for $1,000 at plus 480 to win 4,800, and I have 1,000 on the Lakers at 50 to 1. So I think that's going to be the finals. I hope to God I'm right. But the NBA has been great. I made a bet yesterday. I went against the Lakers. The Lakers coming off of that overtime win off of Utah. They were stuck on the tarmac till 1:45 a.m. They came out super flat, and it was a must-win game for the Clippers. I don't believe the Lakers wanted the 5 seed. I think they look at Kevin Durant is 9-0 in games played with the Suns. I think that they believe that the Suns are the best team in the West. If they get the 5 seed and the Lakers get the 7 seed or even the 8 seed, if they get the 7 seed, they avoid Phoenix until the Western Conference Finals. So that's when you see LeBron yesterday. He wasn't upset they lost. And the Lakers are fucking good. Don't kid yourself. They're good. And they're going to catch the Suns on a back-to-back on Friday as the Suns play Denver tonight. I do believe that the Suns are going to go all out tonight, and they'll probably rest everybody against the Lakers on the back-to-back. So I do believe the Lakers beat the Suns and beat Utah. Then it all becomes Friday. Do the Kings want to play the Warriors or do the Kings want to play the Lakers? The Kings are 3-0 against the Lakers. And if I'm not mistaken, they're 1-2 or 0-3 against the Denver Nuggets. I mean, against the Warriors, the Kings are. So I think the Kings would rather play the Lakers. I think they match up better with the Lakers because they just don't have enough guards to guard the Warriors, where Sabonis can guard Anthony Davis. So I think the Kings go all out at home Friday to try and knock knock the Warriors into the 7th seed, and they want to play the Lakers. But you're going to find out if the Kings are resting everybody Friday against the Warriors. That means they want to play the Warriors, and the Lakers. And if they're playing everybody, that means they want to play the Lakers in the first round. If they're resting everybody, that means they want to play the Warriors in the first round. So you'll get an idea on Friday. Anyway, so I'm going to take some phone calls. I know that segment went a lot longer than we normally do. I thought it was important. We lost a lot of people that were watching because, it does get boring talking about the same thing, but I thought it's an important subject that we talk about. I think it's really important to get stop the cheating in online forums. I really believe that the internet, not speech wise, it gets to a point. There's certain things that should be stopped from saying, but there's got to be a way to stop the kids from being influenced. TikTok, these kids are all addicted to TikTok, and it's like a drug. And you know what I said last week when we talk about the word is affirmation. Every single body wants affirmation. Clicks and likes is like the new drug. You get 1,000 clicks, and you're a kid, you're a young kid that's 16 years old in high school. You tweet something out and it gets 1,000 likes. You have powerful affirmation. When I was a young kid and when I was in the race car group, and I had a race car, and we had this whole group of people that raced cars, and you had the fastest car, and everybody's like, man, Mike's got the fastest car. Oh man, Mike's car's this. It's affirmation. It's like a drug. Oh, everybody looks up to your car. Everybody looks up. It's the same thing with tweets and likes. And I think it's really important to somehow find a way to regulate. Like I said, I can't get on DraftKings, and nobody else could get on WSOP.com outside of Nevada. Every single site, if every single person that registers on the internet registers their name and ID, right? And then when they go to click on it, they won't be able to click on certain sites because that ID is into a central computer, and it knows how old they are, right? So let's just say an 8-year-old clicks on, and they're online, and they can only go to certain sites because the algorithm picks up. You could probably use VPN and all that to hide your identity or whatever, but how many 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old, oh yeah, let me get a VPN, or let me this. And they could also, there's ways to block the VPNs too. So, there's ways to regulate this internet to kind of save the world and the country. And I hopefully they will do it. And I am on board with Sarah with that. So Let's see. What have we not talked about? We haven't talked about the Trump indictment. I mean, I've read it. I've read the indictment. It's the same thing, and they've printed it 34 times for shock value. Oh, at 34, he's been indicted on 34 felony accounts. No, he's been indicted on one account that they've repeated 34 times. The statute of limitations has gone away. That is absolute bullshit since fucking, I don't even want to go there. All they've done is they've guaranteed Trump to, I'm on board. I think Elon Musk says is right. I think they just made a horrible mistake, and they've literally calculated where Trump's going to be the next president. And they think that, it guarantees them the nomination, and they could just bludgeon him to death in the general. But I mean, they raised $10 million yesterday, and 25% of all the money raised, so $2.5 million of the 10, are first-time donators. That's a really big problem for the Democrats. That I honestly do not want Trump as the president. I do not like Trump. You guys know how big of a Trump supporter I was and where I am now. I think he's a fucking complete idiot, But do I think he's done anything illegal here? No, this is a political witch hunt. Do I think he's done probably lots of illegal things in his life? Yeah, probably. But, to be the most vetted person on the planet, and the only thing they could come up with is a 7-year-old hush payment that its the main people behind it are Michael Cohen, who's a convicted felon and has lied like 20 different times, or a porn star who has also lied 20. I don't think they have zero chance of any conviction. It's just, this is all political hit job, but I think it's going to backfire. And unfortunately, we're going to be stuck with fucking Trump for 4 more years now. And also, you're talking about a very vengeful person. If this guy, his whole campaign of getting the presidency back is revenge on the people that stole it from him in 2020. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Like, you don't have to believe he stole it from him, but, they want to say, well, he paid $130,000 to influence the election by hiding something. Well, what do you think the Democrats did with the Hunter Biden laptop? They had the FBI go in and suppress the laptop on Twitter, Facebook. They even suppressed the New York Post, been around since 1815, because if that information from the Hunter Biden laptop comes out, Trump would still be president. So it's a 2-tier justice system. You can't just say, oh, he spent $130,000 to have information not put out that, that it could influence the election. Well, same thing with the Hunter Biden laptop, and they had the goons and the FBI and all the people in the CIA suppress it on all social media forms. So you're talking about something that is really pretty fucked up. Everything Barry has been proven on the laptop. Even CNN says it's all true. So don't say that unless you know what you're talking about. Anyways, let's take some phone calls. We've been on for an hour and a half. Let's take half hours of phone calls. Let's see what you guys want to talk about. Let's see what we want to talk about. What Sarah's trying to push through the legislation of the cheating scandal, which I'm on board with her. Tell me, you guys, whatever you guys want to talk about. Let's take some phone calls now.
The Mouthpiece.
If you'd like to take part in our phone call segment, you can give us a call at 702-329-0480. And if you're a snowflake or a pussy and you don't want to talk to me, you can email me at mouthpiecepodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow me at the Mouth Matiso on Twitter for times that our call-in segment will be live. 702-329-0480. Give me a call. Tell me what you want to talk about. We'll go from there. And talk about poker, NBA. I'd really like to talk about people calling and talk about the legislation that Sarah's trying to pass. But she said she's only one person. I could definitely get a lot of players and people on board if they agree with it. I don't know why they wouldn't. And we can see we go from there. So we talk about the NCAA tournament Monday night. UConn winning their 5th championship. I bet $1,000 on them. I wanted to bet. The old Mikey would 100% bet like 20 on them. I loved UConn. I didn't think San Diego State had a chance, and they didn't. So unfortunately, it wasn't a very good game. Final Four, the Florida Atlantic was a great game. They should have won. If they would have won, we would have had a good championship game. So I noticed today is Thursday in the afternoon. I guess a lot of people are busy today. We're a little bit lower on followers than we normally have. But unfortunately, I wanted to get this in, and I wanted to get Sarah on the podcast, and yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is Doug will do anything for clicks and views. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to make up stories. I'm not going to degrade other people. I'm not going to say bad things about other people to increase viewership, clicks, and likes on, which is what Doug does. I mean, from the 2 years of bashing Daniel, to Daniel getting him to play him head up, to beating him for 1.2 million, to embarrassing him, and then Daniel be his good friend after, or whatever. It's like this guy. I have nothing against Doug. I like Doug. He has something. He has something against me all of a sudden because I tell the truth, and I could have Doug. I've had Doug on the podcast here. He's had me on his. I always consider him a friend. I always liked him, but just because I don't think it gives you the right to say bad things about certain people and stir up shit so you get more clicks and views and likes. I just don't believe in it. And it's even like if you remember, I called out Nick Vertucci, and he was really mad at me that I didn't call him first, when he had Robbie J. Lou on. And he's like, well, she's here to tell the truth. Well, she lied like 6 other times. What do you think she's telling the truth now? And I called him. I said it. Clicks and you really need clicks and likes that bad. It all goes back to affirmation. Everybody wants clicks, likes, and views for affirmation. They need. It's like a drug, and I get it. Like honestly, when I had Mike Postel on, when he was being accused of cheating or whatever, and my views, I had like 25,000 people watching the show. I get it. It's like you feel this, wow, look at all these people. Oh, wow. It's like this, it's like a drug. You get so many people listening to your show but then I realized, especially over the last 3 years that.
You were already on drugs that night.
Yeah, I was high, wasn't I? I smoked pot that night. That's right, I remember. But I kind of realized that in life, you can't be yourself, and you try and be a person that people like to listen to you and listen to what you say, and listen to the guests that you have on, and because they respect you and they respect what you say and whatever. When you decide you're going to go out and just bash somebody publicly and to get them riled up, and to do it to create some kind of scene in the poker world or some kind, so it'll bring likes, clicks, and views. I just don't buy into that. Like even we can talk about the Berkey head up match with Airball, right? Like Trump. Like Doug Polk tweets out, I don't know why they have a head-up match and nobody's streaming it. Well, because why? So Doug can I mean, everybody kind of like said, why? So you can critique every single hand that Berkey plays, and you could try and bash him some more so you get more clicks and views. You know, like David Baker said that, you know, and I agree with him 100%. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, then he offers $100,000 to play on his stream, you know, and then people like Alan Kessler would be like, oh, that's so nice of Doug. He's offering $100,000. Nice of Doug. What? So you get 50,000 people watching the stream? I mean, 100,000? I mean, is that really? So he's trying to literally buy viewership, you know, buy people to watch his stream because it's going to create more and more money for him. And listen, I mean, Doug's a businessman. We live in a capitalist world. Everybody should make the money that they go out and they work hard to make, but I'm not a person that wants to make money off of belittling people to make themselves look good for clicks and likes, you know. I mean, he bashed Robbie, said, you know, and I'm like, oh, you have no problem putting her on your stream. I'm like, you said for sure she cheated. She's like, and he wrote to me, I didn't say she 100% cheated. I said she 85 to 98% cheated. What's the difference? Okay, if I say you 85% cheated or you're 100% cheated, you're pretty much still saying she cheated, you know. But you know, looks at a spot that he can, you know, make extra. The viewership would go way up, and he took it, which is fine. You know, that's what you do. But don't be a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? Don't back off and say something. You know, if you put out something on your word, you do it. You know, I'm kind of under somewhat pressure to not probably agree, you know, that I still believe that she cheated. I've watched the hand 100 times. I see the way she acted. I see the way she acted after she called. I see when they pushed the pot. I saw go in the back room. What can I do to make it go away? Give me my money back. She did. Everybody seems to forget, like everybody's, again, I don't want to talk about this hand very much. It's because I'm so sick of talking about it. But I do know, like, people forget all the little things that happen. Like the guy, Brian, was looking up buzzers from the person who cheated with chess that put a buzzer in their ass, you know, 2 weeks before. I mean, it's a lot of things happen. Welcome to the Mouthpiece. This is Mike. What up? What up?
Oh, Mike, it's Daniel from Mexico. How are you doing today?
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man? Good. What you been up
Very good.
to?
I'm still not able to travel to the United States.
Are you serious? Why is?
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
because you're not vaxxed?
Yeah, well, they haven't lifted the mandate preventing people from coming. They're still stuck in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
You gotta silence that thing. It's too loud.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me lower this. Hold on a second. Yeah.
Got some,
So they
yeah,
still won't let you in because you're not vaxxed? Is that what it is?
That's right. Yeah, I'm unvaccinated, so I'm
Yeah.
not allowed to travel to the United States now.
Well, you could.
apparently,
You could just go to the border. Just fly to the border and just walk across.
Well, I think I might be able to do that, but you know, if you're going to travel, you got expenses. You got to get your accommodation set up. You may want to take a flight. You know, it's a long walk to Las Vegas, so and then get turned down at the border. Everything gets screwed up. It's a lot of work, and you know you're not wanted. You know you have to get lucky to get in, right? So I don't know, but anyway, I wanted to talk to you about Trump. Did you listen to the speech that he did at Mar-a-Lago?
I did.
I
I listened to it. And listen, I've watched Trump enough in a lifetime to know when he's telling the truth and when he's lying. And a lot of that speech was just normal propaganda bullshit Trump. Okay. Now, I mean, I've brought it up many times. I mean, even you turn on CNN and you turn on even they're saying this is like the weakest case ever. Like, how could a prosecutor ever bring this forward? You know what I mean? And I mean, when you have CNN saying it, see, they know that this is just a political hit job. I mean, the first day that he has to be in court in New York is the first day of the first primary. You see what I'm saying? This is all politically motivated. I mean, it just is.
Well, it's just more of the same, right?
Yeah, but the thing is the thing is he is going. He's going to be able to say, "See, I told you they're out to get me. Look at this case." You see, all this does is Trump was completely out of the news. Trump was probably never going to win. I didn't believe he's ever going to win the primary, right? And they decided to turn him into a martyr and bring him to this power, which is now going to bring him up. He's 100% going to get the nomination. They purposely calculated this. They want him to get the nomination. They believe that he cannot win a general. And so they could run fucking brain dead Joe. They might even be run cunt face fucking Kamala. I can't even fucking put two words together. You know, they believe that Trump is that. They damaged him enough. You know, but I believe, like I said, they just 25% of the money that was just been donated are first time donors. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're in trouble.
Well,
I think it's crazy.
Trump wants to, you know, he's got this gigantic ego that's the size of, you know, a Zeppelin. It's just a lot of hot air. He had 4 years.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about how much he got accomplished. He couldn't even set it up so that you could have fair elections in the country.
Correct.
4 years he was in office, and he won the re-election, but he didn't do his work. So the most important thing
because of his narcissism.
In,
you have to understand, it's because of his narcissism. All the people on the right said it when he got elected, that they're going to do everything they can. They're going to suppress. We already knew we were being shadow banned in 2016, right? We knew once it came out that he bought all these ads on Twitter and Facebook and was able to win the election through social media, that they were just going to suppress all the voices on the right, which they 4.6 billion impressions or 46 billion, something like that, were taken off the internet. Now Elon Musk has put all those people back on. Okay, so now is that enough to put Trump over the top? You see what I'm saying? And the truth of the matter is when COVID hit, he allowed those draconian laws to be passed for all the mail-in ballots. Okay,
yeah, but
he did nothing to stop it.
He was scared shitless that millions of Americans were going to die on his watch, and God,
yeah,
he got taken advantage of.
He got railroaded
because he was the president. That was all part of their plan. Well, what can the guy do? He's not a doctor, and he's surrounded by people that are trying to stab him in the back. I mean, you know.
Yeah. I totally get it, but the people. Trump's biggest problem, okay, is even though his base loved him, 33%, whatever, he didn't actually know what the base were saying. And I knew what the base was saying. And, you know, even I follow Mike Cernovich, you know, and he kept saying, you know, if we don't do this, they're going to lose. If you don't do this, you're going to lose, you know. And now he's come out publicly, you know, on record saying this was all done to make sure that Trump wins the nomination. And he was a huge Trump supporter like me in 2016. As a matter of fact, I believe if it wasn't for Mike Cernovich, Trump wouldn't even have been elected. And so, you know, he says Trump has zero chance of winning a general election. And then the people on the right, you know, he's got like 1 million followers or whatever. They're all attacking him saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, what are you saying? Trump can't win. Well, because he can't. Okay. And I mean, that was obvious in the midterms. It was obvious in the midterms that all the Trump-backed candidates lost, or you could say they stole them all, like Arizona. We know they stole Arizona, right? How is it possible that 12 elections that went after Election Day, all 12 went to the Democrats? Okay. It's like they've mastered the art of ballot harvesting.
So that's what I was saying, Mike. The most important thing that whoever's president in the next 4 years is to save the country and get it to the point where there are free elections. You're never going to be able to get rid of the deep state and clean this whole mess up unless you can vote in good, honest people. Now, we all know that Robert Kennedy Jr. would be the best candidate.
I would
But
vote
he's
for him.
gonna be running as a
I would
Democrat.
vote. I would vote for Robert Kennedy Jr. and it's a Democrat in a heartbeat. You know, especially even
Yeah,
over
well,
Trump.
he's running.
I know,
But
and
the thing is,
but they won't let him because he is he is
yeah,
a
they'll
centrist
Bernie
Democrat.
Sanders,
He's
they'll
he's
Bernie
not
Sanders
an
the guy.
insane Democrat. He is a centrist Democrat. Now, does he have a anti-vax? Is he very anti-vax? Yeah, but he has the data to prove what he says. Like, I followed Robert Kennedy Jr. for 5 years, right? Like, everything he said came true. He's got the data to prove it. And, you know, he's,
yeah, well,
I mean,
you,
what-
you could take 10 Trumps and they wouldn't stack up to one Robert Kennedy Jr.
no, I
Not
mean,
even, you know,
here's
not even-
the thing is the people on the right that I follow, they love Robert Kennedy Jr. And I guarantee you that if he took a centrist stance, kind of like a Clinton Democrat or you know basically a normal Clinton Democrat, you know, I think that, or even like, you know, a Kennedy Democrat in the 60s, I believe he would win. I really do, but they'll never let him because he's anti what they represent. You know, they represent their whole life is the trans lobby. I mean what they're doing to these, the money that they're making off and what they're doing to these kids it's so unbelievable. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening what's going on. And I mean, you see a crazy person murder 6 people, 3 9-year-olds, and they were trans man, whatever.
You know,
They wrote a whole manifesto, and it's like, now listen, I knew the right was going to politicize it because they're very anti, you know, on the trans issue. But you know, just like the left, you know, politicizes it, and when a white person commits mass murder or whatever. But like they're hiding everything. Like the 2 days after these people were murdered, you had the National Trans Day of whatever it was, and the White House tweets out about it. Nobody's tweeted out. Nobody's said a word about these 6 people that were killed, 3 9-year-olds. And it's like, hush. The manifesto's hush. Because obviously the manifesto that she wrote is going to hurt their position politically. So it's been suppressed, and we might never see it because that's how corrupt our country is.
All of this LGBTQ and all this, it's just to tear apart society.
That's all. I mean, they've added like 80 different
divide
levels.
and conquer and just mess everything up. It all started back in the 80s when kids go to school. Oh, well, you don't need to have marks. We're going to get rid of marks. You're a student. We don't want you to feel bad because you didn't get good marks.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's the point of going to school? You're supposed to learn. How do you know you learn? You have to have marks.
Yeah.
And they stopped doing this, and then it just grew like a giant, like a cancerous mushroom.
Everything is
to the point where the school system is a complete joke now.
Yeah, I mean, like in Baltimore, 8% of African Americans are proficient on
right?
math. Yeah, and so you know, it's there's got to be. Listen, I love everybody. I don't care what you're trans, fucking gay, left, right. I don't give a shit, you know. But I believe, and I truly, to every inch of my bone, believe that you shouldn't be making these decisions before you're 18 years old. I mean, kids are just so impressionable online. I mean, if their friends start looking and they start thinking about, you know, being the opposites, I mean, sex, whatever. I mean, think about it. Like up until 5 years ago, it was 5% of the world was considered bisexual, gay, and like 1% trans. Now it's 23% and 7%. Okay, over the whole entire history of the world, these were the numbers: 5%, 1%, right? And now it's like blown up to 23 and 7. That's because of what you're seeing online and the brainwashing online.
This is just the decaying empire. It's happened in history.
Yep.
Literally hundreds of times. It happened to the Roman Empire. It's happening to the American Empire. It is rotting from the inside out.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just horrible. It's just horrible.
You know, but there's not.
But
you know,
I want to pick one little thing with you. You've said repeatedly that you think I think it's over 50 or over 60-year-old people should have taken the vaccination. What are you thinking there?
I believe that if you're over 65, okay, I just think the upside of the vax way outweighed the downside. Okay, where
it's a bioweapon, Mike. It's a bioweapon.
you could maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You know, that's a conspiracy. It could, you know, somewhat conspiratorial.
You don't believe that it's a bioweapon?
I believe that COVID was. You know, do I believe the vaccines are? I don't. I believe the vaccines were pushed. Okay, when you have a government that doesn't care who dies in the streets, that are hundreds of thousands of homeless, hundreds of thousands are dying from drug overdose, they don't give two fucks, and they're telling you, take the vaccine, we're here to save lives. You know, I knew something was seriously wrong with that because they don't give two fucks who dies. You know what I'm saying? When you start saying when they tried to pass this as a pandemic of the unvaccinated, that was insanity. And then that was just to tear the country apart and pit one side against the other. You know.
Well, they planned all of this. They planned,
of course they did.
Well, they made the vaccine up by putting together stuff. They made the COVID up.
You know, there's two ways to look at it. You know, I think that I mean, I've said it before. I'm not going to back down for it. I believe that. Well, it's already been proven that the U.S. government was responsible for COVID. I mean, it was released through gain-of-function research in that lab. Was it released on purpose? I believe it was. Okay. I remember. I'm not dumb enough to forget all those doctors in the Wuhan lab screaming to social media what was happening. Like, we got to stop this. We got to stop this. And they were all silenced. And like all 34 of those people, the Chinese said died from COVID because they just figured the thing was so bad. All these people were going to die. They killed all those people. They created
a gigantic hysteria and fear over something that wasn't. It was really a bad flu. They didn't do a really good job on this thing, but it was a super bad flu, and they created it into a pandemic, which it wasn't. It never was.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers. No. It's a joke.
All the numbers, and if you look, like, of all the people that died, something like 90% had a comorbidity or something else inside their system. You know, everything. I don't want to really get back into the COVID situation. I got to take some of their calls, but everything I've said from the beginning about COVID, it's all come true. You know, everything I've said about everything, every conspiratory thing that they called me has all come true. So, it's just
getting back to politics for 1 second. If Trump does get the nomination, if somehow he can get a victory, even though they're going to try and cheat him out of it, or maybe assassinate him, if he can get in, what do you think the number one thing he should do to piss off and get the train going in the right direction? When he gets into office, what do you think the first thing he should do?
That's a good question, but I don't believe they will.
I
don't believe they will ever allow Trump to see the White House again, and I don't believe they're going to put another worldwide pandemic out to take him out. I believe that if he gets the nomination, they'll take him out some way. I just don't believe. I don't believe Trump will ever see the White House, and I believe that. And again, this is another one of my problems with Trump is, like, he knows that what happened in 2020 was rigged, and I believe it was too. And what
any clear-thinking person would realize.
Well, all they have to do is look at the data. If you look at the data,
or look at Joe Biden, just look at Joe Biden.
Right.
How the hell did he win the election?
If you look at the data, you know what happened. But if you believe that in your gut, what makes you think it's not going to happen again? Okay? So if Trump truly cared about the country like he says he does, okay, he would 100% go visit Ron DeSantis at the governor's office, and he would go all in behind him, and DeSantis would win in the biggest landslide in history, okay? And then we would save this country from what's going on. But it doesn't matter. It's all about Trump. And and he thinks I'm the only, because he's such a narcissist. I'm the only one that could do it. I'm the only one that could save it. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like you say, yeah, well, DeSantis is his numbers have dropped because Trump has made them drop. You know what I'm saying? If Trump goes behind him, then it's game over.
Well, yeah, that isn't going to happen because in Trump's
I know it's not going to happen. That's why you heard me say straight out, if Robert Kennedy was to get the nomination, which he can't because of superdelegates, they decide who's
Well,
going to.
Robert Kennedy, he's pounding his head against a cement wall.
Yeah.
He's not going to go anywhere in the Democrat Party. They won't let him. If he gets 99% support, they won't let him. The DNC will screw him just like they did Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely. So, but I would vote for him. I mean,
Well,
I'm a Republican, and I would vote for him.
He's by far and away better than everybody else rolled up into a ball and put together. I mean, that guy. That's
the
real
left doesn't
deal.
have anything. They have no ideas. That's why they have to. That's why they have to take out Trump.
Remember, I asked you a question. What
what
would
your answer be?
Free Assange.
He won't free Assange. He had that chance.
But
Trump
if
said,
he's really
he's a
into
fuck.
trying
If he freed Assange, maybe he'd have a chance at winning re-election. All the hard right, they fucking cannot stand that he didn't free Assange. Are you kidding?
No.
Here's the guy that got him elected. If it wasn't for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, Trump never gets elected. Ever. And so what does he do? He fucking does his typical me. Give me your source to prove it wasn't Russia, and I will let you go. And he's like, sorry, I can't give you my source. Like, why did Julian Assange have to give him his source, right? He didn't have to. All he had to do is, like, Trump, he knew that it wasn't, that the Russia thing was all made up, right? It was proven it was all made up. He didn't, I mean, why do you need that affirmation? I'll do this for you, Julian, if you do this for me. See what I'm saying? It's like, no, Trump, Julian got your ass in. You don't need anything else. You just, you.
Yeah, well, I think that was
he should have
biggest
pardoned
mistake
him.
that he made.
He shouldn't pardoned him. It was one of the biggest things he said when they asked him afterward, well, why didn't you pardon Julian Assange? Oh, well, it's a real complex issue. Well, it's not really a complex issue. The fucking people that were running the country, that were bombing Iraq, were killing innocent civilians, innocent journalism, thousands of innocent people. And Julian Assange exposed it in 2010. So they're like, oh, we got to get this guy. He's exposing that the United States are a bunch of war criminals, which they are, They talk about Putin, war criminal, please. Fucking Obama, Bush, and fucking Clinton, all these fucking, they're way worse than Obama, Clinton, Bush. Way worse than fucking Putin ever would be. I mean, we killed 1 million people in Iraq, but you don't know, you don't hear about it. How many people you think that you could survey? Let's say we took a survey, called 1,000 people. When you ask how many people did the United States kill in Iraq, would say 1 million
Average
people.
person would be
They'd probably
completely
say
clueless.
they would probably say, oh, we probably killed 2,000 or 3,000. You know what I'm saying? Well, you say we killed how many innocent civilians or kids were killed in Iraq? How many you think? Oh, maybe 500. They killed 500,000 children. What's her name, went on fucking TV, Janet, not Yellen, but the other one, and said, they said 500,000 children were killed. Do you think it was worth it? Yes, I think it was worth it. You remember that? When she said, I think it was worth it, right? So it's like, but you're talking about 500,000 children were killed, but you don't hear nothing about it. Nothing. And every single person will have no idea, like this idiot Brandon on my show. You think
Mike,
this guy knows that the U.S. killed 500,000 people in Iraq? Kids.
Mike,
over 1 million people are kids,
Get what U.S. is up to now.
Oh, I know what they're up to, bro.
They're trying to push. They won't be happy until they kill half a million Ukrainians.
Nope.
I mean, this never ends.
Nope, because war, you have what's amazing to me is the left was the pro-speech, free speech party, the anti-war party, until now, till now, because everything's tribalism, like it's unbelievable. There's no people on the left protesting the Ukrainian war. It's unbelievable. It's the people on the right.
Well, they're too busy putting the flag up on their front lawn. It's unbelievable.
I mean, they don't know what's going on. They have no idea what happened in 2014. They have no idea that we took out their government because we didn't like their leader. We have no idea. They have no idea how corrupt Ukraine is. They have no idea what's been going on in this Ukrainian situation for years. They just hear the fake news media say, "Oh, it's a unprovoked war by Putin." No, it's not unprovoked. Putin told them a million times, this needs to change or we are going to have a war. And then the troops, they started building, and they wanted this war. The U.S. wanted this war. This was, the thing is
here's an interesting fact I heard. I hope I have this right. Since Second World War, the Americans have been involved in 216 regime changes.
that's about right.
I mean, that's like being a serial killer.
That we are.
Why don't you let the
We've
world
killed
live
23
life?
million people. The U.S. government's killed in our lifetime in wars.
Yeah. Well, now they're after us.
Yeah.
I mean, because they know they're being exposed, and it's come down to the point where I mean, they're right out there. They're right out there. Like Biden the other day said, well, it's like he's talking about the Nord Stream. Like, we're going to close that down. And he talks about Trump the same way as he did the Nord Stream. He said, no, he's never going to get in the office again. I mean, this is a joke.
Whoa. That video was also from last November. So, that was not a video that he put out before the arrest. They're trying to, you got to remember. That's what I love about Elon Musk. Like, when a video comes out on the right that is defamatory, he says this video was done in November. It is a real video, but it was put out in November. Like, he fact checks now everybody on the left and the right, where before it was just fact checks on the right and take them off and then deplatform them. So Elon Musk, I believe, putting all the pro-right side voices back on Twitter and making Twitter the central. And one thing I've noticed too about Twitter is he's trying to make people, and I know the algorithm is doing this, okay? The new algorithm is if you follow like certain people on the right, okay, he then puts in people's tweet that have like the counter argument on the left in your timeline, because I'm getting tons of left talking points that are opposite of the right side view on a certain issue. And I think he's doing that on purpose to make all the people that are politically engaged on Twitter to see both sides of the argument. Because like one person has kept coming up in my Twitter, like I've never followed in my life. And it's like, because I'm on the, it's like, it was annoying, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's being done on purpose. And if it is, I'm not against it, because I do believe that both sides of the argument should be heard. You see what I'm saying? Like if one side puts one side out and the other side can't answer, that's a problem. But I'm telling you right now, I got so much left-wing people that come up in my timeline. Like it gets to a point of like I had to block one yesterday because it got so annoying. But it's obviously being done by the algorithm, which, hey, it's good. I think that both sides should show up on the algorithm, because the people on the left aren't watching anything on the right, and the people on the right aren't listening, because everything's become tribalism. So if Elon Musk is pushing the algorithm for each side of the argument to show up in your timeline, it's up to you to block it, but at least you get to see it, and I think it's important. Anyway, I got to go, my friend. You have a good one. Have a great weekend.
Talking to you as usual.
All right. You got it. Take care. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So that is pretty interesting. Like I've been getting a lot of one side of the conversation on the other side that I don't even follow show up in my timeline. It's good that he's doing it on purpose. I think they're trying to match what you follow. and what they follow, and then they put the other side of the conversation in, and I think it's pretty important. I'm probably going to play Hustler probably the first week of May. It's probably when I'm going to do it. So that's what I got planned for that. I've got all kinds of things planned coming up. We'll talk about it probably next week on the podcast. But I'm going to go to Chicago. I'm going to plan a few streams. It's hard. It's hard for me to travel. You guys know how it is. I'm really excited about the NBA playoffs. I really believe in every inch of my bone that the Lakers are going to win the West, and they're going to have a shot to win the title. And it's one reason and one reason only. Defense wins championships, period. They've been the number one defensive team since the trade deadline. And yes, the last 2 games, they were terribly defensively, but it was also day 4 and 5 of a 5-day road trip. And, that has a big, like LeBron said, he goes, we lost yesterday because of scheduling. And I believe that. They came out flat. They were stuck on the tarmac till 1:45 a.m., played the overtime game in Utah. That's why the Clipper bet yesterday was just like a must bet. I don't make many bets, but I bet the Clipper. I've been on the Lakers bandwagon for over a couple months now, but it's just they're good. They're good. They lost yesterday. I definitely think the people are asking me who I like tonight. I really didn't follow the schedule because what I've been doing is following like 3 or 4 teams the last 3 weeks, and I got a really good feel for them, and I've done well. I think the Suns tonight playing Denver are going to really show up. I haven't looked yet. The Suns might rest everyone tonight and show up tomorrow against the Lakers. They might think the Lakers are the most dangerous team and want them out of the playoffs, or they might want to, because they played Denver like a week ago or whatever. Maybe they want to show Denver we're the team to beat, which I think they're going to tonight. I haven't looked yet at the starting lineups, but if the Suns are playing everybody, the Suns are a play tonight. I think they're going to put a statement down that you might be the 1 seed, but we're the team to beat. But I might be wrong if somebody could tell me, looking at starting lineups, if the Suns are resting anybody tonight. Because if they're resting everybody tonight and they're going to play them tomorrow on the back-to-back because they want to knock the Lakers' chances of out of the playoffs, I don't know. I don't believe that the Lakers are not going to be in the playoffs. I mean, even if they fall to the 8th seed, I don't believe that they're going to lose 2 in a row in the play-in tournament. I just don't believe it. I think they're that good. So we'll see what happens. We have any other callers?
No.
Wow, really slow today. I don't think I've ever had a show where we've only had 1 caller. No new callers or nothing. Must be because it's Thursday, and we did in the afternoon. It's when people on the East Coast come home. We usually do it on Friday when we start at 3:30 in the afternoon, and that'll be next time we run the show. We'll make sure it's on a Friday or Saturday, or we'll start later in the afternoon because I did notice that viewership was way down, and I don't think we've ever had 1 caller. A lot of interesting stuff that went on this week. I'm not flip-flopping on no Lakers, buddy. I'm all in on the Lakers. The Lakers are winning the West. Will they win the title? I don't know. I believe they're going to play the Bucks in the finals, and I've got the Bucks at plus 480 for 1,000, and I told you I've got the Lakers. So, the Suns are the team to beat in the West. Forget what you see. Denver's good. Denver could beat anybody, but you bring Kevin Durant to that Sun team. I mean, in the playoffs when you're playing every other day, okay, you could play your stars tons of minutes. And when you have a DeAndre Ayton, a Devin Booker, a Chris Paul, and a Kevin Durant, I mean, this is a team. I just don't think. I think they're the team to beat, you know. But I also believe the only other team that can match up with is the Lakers. The Lakers, you know, like who guards LeBron if I don't even know if DeAndre Ayton, even though he's a big guy, is capable of guarding Anthony Davis. But who guards LeBron? Who guards LeBron on? Do you think Booker could guard LeBron? I don't. You know. So, Phil has 20-1 on the Warriors to win it. I don't think the Warriors have any chance whatsoever. And there's no team in history that's 9-30 on the road, 2-21 against teams over 500. That's just going to win on the road. Memphis is good, but they lost Clark. Losing Clark, he was like one of their number one backup people off the bench. And then Adams has still been out. If Adams is not 100%, I mean, they need Adams to guard Ayton or to even be able to put a big body on Davis. You know, missing Adams not 100%, and Davis, I mean, and Clark, losing Clark, I just don't think Memphis has enough. I just don't. But they will. They're a couple of years away. I think they will. And Denver has enough to beat anybody. But I'm at far the show me state. Show me what you do in the playoffs. Denver kind of chokes every year in the playoffs. So, I'm not a big Denver fan. I think the Lakers didn't mind losing yesterday. Now they can't get the 5 seed. They're going to get the 6, the 7, or the 8. I really think the Lakers would like to have the 7 seed. I mean, I think they'd want Memphis in the first round. I think that they match up well against Memphis. I think they're deeper than Memphis. And if they beat Memphis, they don't have to play. They would then go. They don't have to. They would play the winner of the 3-6 seed in the next round. They avoid if the Lakers get the 7 seed, they avoid the Suns to the NBA Finals. Even if they get the 6 seed, they avoid the Suns to the Western Conference Finals. So I kind of was looking through what LeBron was saying yesterday, like, oh, it's just one game we lost, we'll be okay. I believe they played hard. I believe they think they could beat anybody, but I think they're happy to know that they don't have to face the Suns to the Western Conference Finals. And I know that they believe they could beat Memphis. They could beat the Kings. They think they could beat the Kings, even though the Kings are 3-0 against them. But this is a new team. The Kings haven't played them since the trade deadline, so it's a whole different team. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the playoffs. World Series is coming up. Looking forward to everything. But sorry we didn't get that many calls today. Really wanted to hear people's thought process on what Sarah had to say. I'm going to reach out to my people in the poker world and see what they have to say about the legislation. So we've been going for 2.5 hours. Big game tonight. I was going to go to the game. I still might. Kings against the Vegas Golden Knights. It's 6:15. If I was going to go, I was supposed to already have left. But let me see if I got any invites to go tonight. I think I did. No, I didn't. Let's see. Yeah. Anyways. Alrighty. Well, we're going to, unfortunately, I wanted more calls today, but I guess the people are not around. I will be back next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of the podcast. Thank Sarah Ralston for coming on, for fighting for legislation, and I'll reach out to everybody in the poker world and see if we can get this thing done. You guys have a great weekend. Big weekend for the Lakers. We need 2 wins, and I'll let you know what's going on with me and with poker. We'll see you next week on The Mouthpiece. Take care.
The Mouthpiece.